That song topped Canadian music charts 30 years ago. OCM, sung in both Inuktitut and English, brought Susan Aglukark onto the national scene. And now Susan is touring across the country 3 decades after her breakout album, This Child. We welcome singer Susan Aglukark, who has played in Fort Saskatchewan last night. Good morning, Susan. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you. Actually, and a correction, that OCM is a Coast Salish First Nations language.
Thank you for the correction. Let's talk about your tour. How's it been going?
It's been going really, really well. We're just finished up in Saskatchewan, here in Alberta now, and then off to British Columbia in a couple of days.
Now, you were a trailblazer, the first top 10 hit for an Inuk artist. How has it been seeing a little more acceptance of Indigenous artists?
It's just been an incredible experience to observe, to watch, to be part of how the world has changed and opened up for so many wonderful up and coming Indigenous artists, Inuit artists, and you're going to see a lot of that at the Junos this weekend. Actually, very exciting to watch.
Now, you didn't expect to be a radio artist. What was it like to suddenly have the biggest song in Canada?
There was a bit of a combination of, wow, this just happened. And it was pretty scary because Arctic Rose had been released and we had done our northern tour. And then I figured I was done. I was going to move on and do something else. But we signed a record deal with EMI and went in and started writing the album, This Child. And I don't think any of us really was prepared for it. Its coming success. OCM was a huge success, and of course, that just set off an incredible, 30 years now.
And why is it important? And talk about the impact to include the Inuk language.
I think Indigenous languages are such an integral part of who we are as our respective Indigenous groups. Inuktitut being my first language, there's just a way of communicating the uniqueness of our history, of who we are as even contemporary Inuit, that can only be shared through language. Kablunatitut, the white language, is not our traditional language, so we lose a lot of little things in communication. And it's an incredible language. There are some ways and words that we use. There's one song called Oangila that I perform that when I describe it, when I share the story behind it, it's a very efficient language. And when we think of the efficiency of the language, all that speaks to is the social organization of our ancestors. And these are very important pieces for us to know and to share with the next generation. So it's very critical as Indigenous folks, Inuit in Inuktitut, that we use our language as much as we can.
Now, you've been touring the country, and I am curious about your fan base. Are you seeing a lot of devoted fans you've seen in the past? Or are you seeing a lot of new faces out in the crowd?
It's a very an interesting surprise. A lot of fans from 30 years ago, a lot bring their original CDs, and I've even seen a cassette tape. And then they bring often their adult child or children who had gone to their This Child concert for the first time. So their first concert was a This Child concert. And sometimes they bring their grandchildren too. So it's been pretty sweet to see the generations represented in the audience.
Excellent. Susan, thank you so much for speaking with us this morning. Have a great rest of your tour.
Thank you.
Susan is in Camrose tonight and in Fort McMurray on Sunday. More information at susanaglukark.com.